Have you ever walked past an old, abandoned house and felt a shiver run down your spine? Or heard a strange noise in the middle of the night that you just couldn't explain? We live in a world full of light and reason, but sometimes, just sometimes, the shadows stretch a little longer than they should. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and peek into that darkness. We'll be diving deep into 3 stories that'll make you question what's real and what's just. A trick of the mind. These aren't your typical campfire tales. These are stories that linger, that whisper in the back of your thoughts long after you've heard them. So, turn down the lights, get comfortable, and prepare to explore the unsettling side of our world. Our first story takes us to the wind-swept coast of Scotland, to a remote lighthouse that has stood against the fury of the North Sea for over a century. In December of 1900, on the tiny, uninhabited Flannan Isles, this lighthouse was manned by 3 keepers: Thomas Marshall, James Ducat, and Donald MacArthur. They were seasoned men, familiar with the solitude and the relentless roar of the ocean. Their job was simple: keep the light burning, no matter what. On December 15th, a passing steamship noted that the light was out, a serious and unheard of issue. But rough seas prevented any landing for days. It wasn't until December 26th that a relief keeper, Joseph Moore, was finally able to make it to the island. What he found, or rather, what he didn't find, has become one of the greatest maritime mysteries of all time. As Moore approached the landing stage, he felt an immediate sense of unease. There was no one there to greet him, no flag flying from the mast. An eerie silence hung over the island, broken only by the cry of gulls. He climbed the steep steps to the lighthouse and found the main door unlocked. Inside, the scene was even stranger. A half-eaten meal was left on the kitchen table. An overturned chair lay on the floor, as if someone had jumped up in a hurry. The keepers' beds were unmade, and their oilskin coats were missing, suggesting they had gone out into the storm. But one set of oilskins was left behind. Why would one man venture into a ferocious Atlantic storm without his protective gear? The logbook offered the only clues. The entries were routine until December 12th. Thomas Marshall, a tough, experienced seaman, wrote of a severe storm, the likes of which he had never seen. He described his fellow keepers as being unusually quiet. Ducat was very irritable, and MacArthur, a notoriously tough brawler, had been crying. This was utterly out of character for these men. The last entry, on December 15th, was cryptic. Storm ended, sea calm, God is over all. But weather reports for the area showed no storms on those dates. The seas were calm. So what were they writing about? The 3 men were never seen again. Theories abound, from a rogue wave sweeping them away, to a fight that ended in tragedy, to more supernatural explanations involving sea serpents or ghostly apparitions. But the truth remains lost to the cold, dark waters of the Atlantic, the empty lighthouse, the uneaten meal. The strange logbook entries, they all paint a picture of sudden, inexplicable terror. Next, we travel from the desolate sea to the bustling heart of a modern city. But the story is no less chilling. It concerns a young woman named Eliza Lamb. In 2013, the 21-year-old Canadian student was on a solo trip across the west coast of the United States. Her last known location was the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles, a place with a long and storied history of its own, linked to mysterious deaths and notorious criminals. Elisa had been in regular contact with her family, but on January 31st, the calls stopped. Her parents reported her missing, and the LAPD launched an investigation. They searched her room and the hotel, using sniffer dogs, but found no trace of her. The case was going cold until the police released the last known footage of Eliza, and it turned the investigation into a global obsession. The video was from an elevator camera in the Cecil Hotel. It's about 4 minutes long and deeply unsettling. In the footage, Elisa enters the elevator and presses several buttons. The doors don't close. She peeks out into the hallway, looking left and right, then quickly retreats back into the corner of the elevator, as if hiding from someone. Then, she steps out again, looks around, and steps back in. At one point, she begins making strange, contorted hand gestures, almost as if she's talking to someone who isn't there. Finally, she walks away down the hallway, and the elevator doors, which had been malfunctioning the whole time, suddenly close and open several times before the video ends. The footage went viral. People all over the world tried to decipher her bizarre behavior. Was she playing a game? Was she having a psychotic episode? Was she trying to escape a pursuer who was just out of the camera's view? The mystery deepened 2 weeks later. Guests at the hotel began complaining about low water pressure and a strange taste and color to the water. A maintenance worker went to check the large water tanks on the hotel roof. When he opened the main tank, he made a horrifying discovery. Floating inside was the body of Eliza Lamb. The lid to the tank was incredibly heavy and would have been nearly impossible for her to lift and close by herself from the inside. The rooftop area was also locked and alarmed, and it's unclear how she even got up there. An autopsy found no signs of trauma and no illegal drugs in her system. Her death was officially ruled an accidental drowning, with her bipolar disorder listed as a significant factor. But for many, this explanation just creates more questions. How did she get into a sealed water tank on a locked roof? And what explains her terrifying behavior in the elevator? The case of Eliza Lamb remains a modern-day enigma, a dark story played out on our screens that we still can't fully comprehend. For our final story, we step back in time to 16th century North America, to the first English attempt at colonization. In 1587, a group of over 100 men, women, and children, led by Governor John White, established a settlement on Roanoke Island, off the coast of what is now North Carolina. Among them was Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the New World. But resources quickly dwindled, and the colony needed supplies from England. John White agreed to make the treacherous journey back across the Atlantic, leaving his family, including his daughter and newborn granddaughter, behind. He promised to return within a few months. But fate had other plans. When he arrived in England, a major naval war with Spain broke out, and every available ship was commandeered for the war effort. It was 3 long years before White could finally secure passage back to his colony. In August of 1590, John White finally landed on Roanoke Island. His heart must have been pounding with a mix of hope and fear. As he approached the settlement, an unnerving silence greeted him. The site was completely deserted. All the houses and fortifications had been dismantled. The colonists, over 100 people, had vanished without a trace. There were no signs of a struggle, no bodies, no graves. It was as if they had simply evaporated into the thin air of the New World. The only clue left behind was a single word carved into a wooden post of the fort: Croatoan. Another carving, Crow, was found on a nearby tree. Croatoan was the name of a nearby island, now called Hatteras Island, and also the name of a local Native American tribe. Friendly to the English, White took this as a sign that the colonists had relocated and were safe. He planned to sail to Croatoan Island to find them. But a massive storm blew in, damaging his ships and forcing his crew to abandon the search and return to England. John White was never able to finance another trip. He died years later, never knowing the fate of his family and the lost colony. What happened to them? Did they integrate with the Croatoan tribe, as the clue suggests? Were they wiped out by a different, hostile tribe? Did they try to sail back to England in a small boat and get lost at sea? Or did disease and starvation claim them all? For over 400 years, historians and archaeologists have searched for answers, but the fate of the Roanoke colonists remains one of America's oldest and most profound unsolved mysteries. From a lonely lighthouse to a haunted hotel to a vanished colony, these stories share a common thread. They leave us with more questions than answers. They remind us that our world is not always as it seems, and that some mysteries are so deep, so dark, that they may never be solved. They've become modern folklore, cautionary tales, whispered from one generation to the next, fueling our fascination with the unknown. What do you think happened in these cases? Do you have a theory that solves the puzzle? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to read them. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the shadows. If you enjoyed these stories and want to explore more mysteries, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content that will make you think twice about turning off the lights. Stay curious and stay safe.